Now, before anybody freaks out or has a cow over the fact that I'm making this kind of video, no, I don't think Brandon Sanderson is the greatest writer of all time. That's not what this is about. But I think it's really, really important and a good discussion point to go over what exactly is happening in the world of writing and books and fiction that you, dear viewer, may not even be aware of yourself, but I think it's really cool, really important, and we've got to talk about it. What's up, guys? I'm the Midnight Chronicler. Like and subscribe to this video. Turn on the bell notifications if you guys have not yet. Let's have a cold discussion tonight. I would wager if you ask most people who J.K. Rowling is, they would be able to tell you. The same thing with George R.R. Martin. Both authors are fantastic in their own way. Both write very different fantasy styles. Both have very different writing styles, and they have garnered massive worldwide success, and I love both authors. By the way, this is my favorite Harry Potter book, the first one I ever read. Strangely enough, I didn't start with the first book. Like I said, ask anyone. Ask your mom or your dad or maybe your cousins or friends who these two authors are. They'd instantly be able to at least say, oh, I've heard the name before. But if you ask those same people, especially even nowadays, who is Brandon Sanderson? I would bet money that they won't have a clue. I'm gonna make a pretty crazy statement right now. Brandon Sanderson is the most important author in the world right now that we've seen in the last probably 10, 15, 20 years. The guy has a huge following. He has the most successful Kickstarter of all time, certainly in the book sphere that I've ever seen. His Kickstarter raised over $43 million from his fans that he teased, where he wrote 4 books in secret, and he came through big time. I think there's very few fans of his that backed that Kickstarter that are regretting that decision. And another cool thing is, besides the whole Kickstarter secret novel thing, he's got the latest book in his most well-known series, the Stormlight Archive, is coming out this December. It's called Wind and Truth. I cannot wait to get to that point. I got to read through books 2, 3, and 4 yet, but I cannot wait for that book to release. And it's going to be huge. Make no mistake. When the book comes out, it's going to be a big deal. But the craziest part is, again, he's still not that well known. Being a fan and being aware of who Brandon Sanderson is right now is kind of a strange experience for me. It's almost like the vast majority of people not knowing about the Marvel movies, or about Star Wars, or about Fortnite or something. He's somehow managed to stay somewhat underground despite the absolute gargantuan success he's had and still growing. That's why I had to make this video on him and just the fantasy genre these days in general. Ever since I got back into reading just a couple years ago and into fantasy, I am just floored by the situation around this guy, and you guys should be too. He's even got his own YouTube channel. Seriously, watch some of his stuff and his weekly updates. It's honestly interesting stuff, and it's cool to see an author have the kind of openness with his fans that Brandon Sanderson does. And if you watch his YouTube channel, he seems like a good dude. And he plays Elden Ring. The guy's one of us. It's just epic. So you're probably asking, what kind of books does the man write? Obviously, I mentioned fantasy. It's mainly fantasy. His biggest series include the aforementioned Stormlight Archive series, which spans 4 books now. He also has the Mistborn series, which is a series of heist, like fantasy, action-adventure books. He has more projects and even single novels. If you guys don't feel like starting a whole new big series, he does have individual novels that you can try out. And guys, I'm saying all this as someone who's only read a single book by the guy. I didn't give this a perfect score by any means, but I have a ton of fondness for the guy and what he's trying to do for reading. He feels like an author that's legitimately trying to bring the hobby back into the mainstream. And that is just unheard of in a day and age where people are more invested in video games or Marvel movies, social media. He's trying to bring reading back, and that just means the world to me. You know, I once made a video on this channel called, will there ever be another massive hit series, you know, like Harry Potter? That kind of series where you just see people lined up on midnight releases outside, you know, lines going outside Walmart, lines through Barnes & Noble to pick up the next book in a series. I miss those days so much. If you guys were kids in the 2000s like I was, you probably recall those nights, and they were so much fun. They're so memorable. You want those kind of memories anymore. Books should be events, especially a new book in a big series. The world needs something like that again, and I'm hoping and praying that that is what the Stormlight Archive can give us eventually. Seriously, guys, in my humble opinion, if you read books in 2024, but don't give some of the big fantasy series out there a shot, you're missing out on the best authors doing their best work today. From 2000 till now, I think we have quietly been in a golden age for fantasy, but nobody talks about it. Probably mainly because Harry Potter was such a huge thing and then kind of went away, and Game of Thrones was the massive success that it was throughout the 2010s, but people are really missing it. Kind of flown under the radar. All these great series that people probably don't even think about or know about, but they need to because they're so good. I'm speaking of, not just the Stormlight Archive, but you've even got things like the Red Rising series. It's like a Hunger Games, but way better and way more badass in my opinion. It has over 4.25 out of 5 stars with hundreds of thousands of ratings on Goodreads. The Wheel of Time is a huge epic series that spans many books. I actually have reviews for the first 3 books in that series up on the channel if you want to check those out. All those books average 4.19 out of 5 stars on Goodreads with 500,000 ratings on Goodreads. I'm not even done yet. We also have the Kingkiller Chronicles, which is a beautifully written, mature version of Harry Potter in a way. It's got 4.5 out of 5 average rating with 100,000 reviews on Goodreads. You guys know my favorite. There is the Gentleman Bastard series. Again, very heist, very kind of brotherhood, tons of fantastic, hilarious writing, great storytelling in these books, guys. They're just written with, several different viewpoints that every story beat is a high stakes, high intensity moment in this book series. I love it. It's such a joy to read. I'm still not done. You got great individual books like Kings of the Wild. You also have fantastic sci-fi books like Red Rising, but also the Empire of Silence books, the Sun Eater series. Love this book as well. Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Other newer authors like Brian Lee Durfee that has his incredible 5 Warrior Angels trilogy that I still haven't even gotten into yet. I have to read this series. These books are so freaking cool, so awesome looking. The cover here is great. I love the matte finish. By the way, guys, fantasy books, besides having fantastic stories, just have the best covers, don't they? You also have the book that won my weekly reader poll for the month, for Fantasy Book of the Month. That is The Blade itself. Again, this is another series like Game of Thrones that is just brutal. I've heard so many good things about it. So many booktuber friends have said such great things about this series, that the characters are awesome, the situations are brutal, the story is fantastic, and the writing by Joe Abercrombie is, second to very few. And I can't wait to get into this series either. There is so much out there, guys. John Gwynne, hell, even Stephen King. There are so many worlds to discover than just Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Game of Thrones. I implore you guys, if you read and are kind of on the fence about fantasy, research a series that fits your needs. Do you like the more adult, brutal stuff? Maybe the First Law is for you. Maybe Game of Thrones is for you. Do you like great writing and a really interesting magic system with great introspection and just genuine old-time storytelling? Give The Name of the Wind a try. That is the Kingkiller Chronicle series. Great book series. Do you love stuff that's just straight up insanity? Action like crazy, fast-paced, roller coaster ride books? Well, then you definitely want to give the Red Rising series a try. There is a weapon in this series that is almost as epic as a lightsaber. Seriously, it's called the Razor, and it is these swords that collapse into whips. They're insanely sharp, and with the press of a button on the handle, it folds back up into a sword. It's so cool. That, amongst many other weapons and gadgets in the series that are just so fun to read about. And there is a ton here that I didn't even mention that I would love for you guys in the comments. Please leave your thoughts on series that I should check out, that I didn't mention about, that anyone else that enjoyed this video should look at and give a chance to, because like I said, we're in a golden age of fantasy. Seriously, we don't think in terms of that because it's like the modern day, right? We think, oh, everything great happened years ago. But that's not really true, guys. There is so much cool stuff that happened, so many great books that came out in the last 10 to 20 years that people don't even talk about, that I didn't even know about until I got back into reading, especially in the fantasy genre. I said it before in this video, I'll say it again. The best authors writing today are writing in fantasy, and they're doing their best work. Books are escapism, and to me, fantasy books command the imagination of the highest magnitude. So please, guys, do yourselves the biggest favor, give these books a shot. On your way out, please like the video, consider subscribing, and I will talk to you guys very, very soon. See ya.